Welcome to the District 32 D32 podcast, and this time it's a real privilege to have Jeremy Hills with us, who's a mindset leadership coach and also does a lot of sales training as well, because anyone who's done sales understands that it all fits in with that and how things are going to work. So my name's Kingsley. I'm the host here. Often Dean's in, but we got Jeremy talking about sales, and I love the topic you've come up with here. Why you're not closing some sales. And it's something that probably not a lot of people actually think about intentionally. So, Jeremy, tell us a little bit about why you believe a lot of people aren't closing sales that they should.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are not closing sales because they don't actually have the connection with their prospects. They're not building trust and connection, an emotional connection before they start. And often, usually when we just start to sell before we even got to know the person, we're losing the customer because we don't have trust yet. And we haven't actually found out enough about them for us to be able to influence them and for them to actually trust us enough to actually share what's really going on for them. And a lot of times
Jeremy,
the customer wants to feel emotionally safe.
Yeah. So now that I want to ask you a question on that. So you said a lot of people are trying to sell them before they've got the trust. Explain what you mean by that.
Well, sometimes the customer will come with a logical explanation of why they want a product or a service. They say, oh, I'm going to a financial planner because I want more money, or I'm going to buy an aircon because I want to be cool, or I'm buying a house because I need shelter. They're very rational kind of logical things. And if you just go and say, okay, you want a house for shelter, here's a house, most of the time that won't close the sale because you haven't actually got to know the person, because people buy people, they're not buying the product or the service. And we've all probably had the experience, we've walked out on a bad salesperson and we've sometimes gone to a salesperson that sometimes even charges more because we trust the person and we actually believe they're going to deliver on their product or service that they say they're offering us.
That's a massive point.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And people are buying people, not products. And sometimes in business, we always think that if I just lower the price of my goods or services, I'm going to get the sale. But sometimes lowering your prices will actually get the customer to think there's something wrong with you or your services. It actually does not actually have a positive outcome. You're actually going to close the sale and often be able to charge more for your products and services when you have trust. And the only way you're going to build trust is to get that emotional connection with the person before you even start discussing your product or service in the first place.
Okay, so how do we go about building that rapport, that trust with people? How do we get them to trust us?
Yeah. So a lot of the times we will build rapport by looking for something in common. We start to get to know someone by asking them, what do you do for work? What do you like to do for a hobby? We probably even had some of our best sales come from meeting someone while doing some sort of hobby, like playing golf or whatever it might be for you. And you start to then be able to make some sort of emotional connection with the person, okay? And when you have that emotional connection, people are going to start to share more stuff that they kind of share with friends and family. Oh, I wasn't able to go on the holiday because I had too much on at work. And they start to go a little bit deeper and they start saying, oh, I don't know if I can actually be able to invest in the services because I've got stuff going on with my kids. And they start to share just that little bit more personal than just, I don't have time or money. Okay. And I'll definitely share some stuff that will actually build deeper rapport. So we often are matching those sorts of things. But rapport is often built through unconscious processes through what we call matching and mirroring. And you've probably had this experience if you've ever gone out to coffee with a friend. A matching example is with your right hand, if you reached down and picked up a cup of water and you drank that water, your friend would, with their right hand, would go and pick up a glass of water and they would drink it. Okay. And when you do that at the exact same time, unconsciously, you're actually matching their body language. Okay? And the person who actually is leading that is the one actually the rapport leader. And if they're mirroring, it's like you pick up with your right hand and they pick up with their left hand. And we can actually match and mirror all these unconscious things that people are doing. Same as tone of voice too. Like if someone's speaking very loudly, you can actually match their tone. Okay. If someone's speaking very softly, you can match their tone. If they often have other body language that they're just demonstrating, you can match that as well. But physiology is like 55% of our communication. So if we pay attention to what they're doing with their body, we can actually match that on an unconscious level. And also energy. Like if your customer's coming to you with lots of energy and you're kind of a bit of a downer, like you've got to probably lose the sale. Okay. Now, there used to be lots of people say is like have high energy, but if your customer doesn't have high energy and you're going like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever, like kind of like the spruiker that's on the street, you're kind of like, you're a little bit much for me. So you kind of have to actually match that customer's energy, and you do want to lead them into like a positive emotional state before you actually ask for the sale too.
Yeah, so what you're saying is you're learning about that person, finding out who they are, their personality wise, what they a lot about them really, and even a lot of personal things, and trying to, I guess, blend in with that who they are and mirror them so that they, I guess, are accepting you more.
Yes, and if you don't actually have rapport, a customer won't actually accept any advice that you're offering them. And I like to give an example is like, if like maybe you have a coworker or someone that you work with you don't like very much, and they give you advice without rapport, and you usually just reject it and you don't take that advice. However, if it's your best friend that gives you the exact same advice, if you have rapport and that connection, you take the advice. And it's like, it's the exact same advice, but you took it from your friend, but you didn't take it from the person you didn't like.
And that's a trust factor, obviously.
It's a trust. There's kind of like 3 stages of trust that you need to break through to actually get the customer where you want them to be. And sometimes we do this by offering cheaper products to get them in the door, to be able to so the customer can get to know us. Okay. So like the first stage is like, say you've got a product or a service, and when you're actually having that conversation with someone, they say, I want this house, this aircon, this job done on my kitchen because I just don't like my kitchen, or I just don't like my house. Yeah. And you just find out enough about them. They just say the surface thing, I want this. And then you say, okay, here's the product or the service. Okay. And then the first thing they say is, well, I don't have money or I don't have time. Okay. And they often just say that because you haven't learned anything about them on an emotional level, and you're just selling to their logical mind. But then if you say, well, how come you want a house? Well, I want a house because I want to be able to be close to the school where my children grow up. I want to make sure they have a backyard so they can play. And you find out like more of the stuff that's going on for them emotionally, like what's the emotions that are driving it. And then you start to sell to that, like you'll probably get almost double the amount of people start to buy from you, okay? Because you actually have learnt about what's going on for them emotionally. And then the next stage is they still might throw up objections, but sometimes those objections are often unconscious. And the reason why they're not buying that product or the service isn't because of time or money. They're not buying that because they feel like they might not succeed, or they might be making a bad financial decision, and they're wondering what their family or friends will think of them if they make that bad financial decision. And then you're really starting to get to a level that the customer doesn't usually share with people. They may not even be aware of it or even sharing it with their friends and family. Maybe they need to have a difficult conversation with their spouse and they're not actually verbalizing that. And that's where really good, strong connection and rapport, and actually we're asking, well, how come you're not wanting to buy the house? Like, what is preventing you? And starting to find out, well, it's because like the last house I bought, I lost money on, and they haven't shared that with anyone until now, and they don't want to feel like a rejection or a failure again by making that bad decision again. And getting to that level is like an area where they may not even share with friends. They're like, you've got a really strong relationship and you're really connecting with them on a deeper emotional level. And if you can do that, you'll probably close well over like 1 out of 2 sales, like if you can get to that level, because you've connected them at an emotional level that if you are speaking to them at that level, like they will basically sell themselves because they just feel understood and listened to.
So how do you go through those three different levels? Is it asking questions? Is it listening to certain things and narrowing
Yeah.
in on those certain things they say? Or
Yeah, and I think one of the most difficult things for people in sales is we don't like emotions coming up sometimes for the customer. But your job as the salesperson is to actually bring up the objection. But most people run away from the objection, so they don't even get past the I want a house, and then they just say, "Here, do you want this house for X price?" It's like they're going to say problems to you, and your job in sales is to solve those problems. But if you run away from the problems and don't help the customer further with solving those things, it's going to be difficult. Like you might actually need to coach them on how to have a difficult conversation with their spouse, yeah, and find out what's really going on for them.
yeah, so there's a lot to it, isn't it? When you really get into sales, like if you're selling hamburgers, it's probably not that emotional of a deal for the most part. But
Yeah,
obviously, with a lot of things that we are doing, yeah, that's right, and obviously, price would be a
yeah,
big factor in that as well.
yeah,
No, that was also just you've taken the whole rapport. That's the word I'm after. You've
yeah,
taken that whole
rapport.
rapport thing and put a whole new bunch of levels in it to where we need to get to
Yeah,
actually find out who people are, their emotional state, and what's
yeah,
really going on with them.
yeah. And probably the thing I can actually share that will help the most is this is like after you've got your psychology set, you're in a positive emotional state, rapport is the next thing. You've got to build the relationship. Then you obviously got to maintain that relationship. Now, at any point you feel like in a conversation, you don't have that connection. Okay. I always recommend just pausing and just asking them like, what are you thinking about this? How do you feel about this? And actually get the conversation happening again. Because a lot of the times, like we're told these things that we've got to have a sales script, but you've all probably been called by the person who has the sales script and they're just like, oh, hi, are you so-and-so? And then they start reading their script. And you want to hang up on them 5 seconds because they haven't even asked you how your day was or like even what's going on for you in life. Like they haven't even established you if you even have a need for your product or service first. So if you're noticing that like you've lost them, you're probably becoming like too salesy as far as you're just talking and reading through a script or you're just going through the motions. So then you can stop and say something like, I've shared a lot with you, like what's going on for you right now? Like, where are you at? Okay. And what you can actually do to sometimes get over that resistance is you can share something about yourself personally, or it's maybe something another customer or something's done. And you can say something like, oh, I was feeling the same way before I made this leap, or I had a customer that felt the same way. And what they found is if they did this, this, and this, like they were able to get their outcome, okay, or they're able to get what they want. And that time to just stop and just even share maybe something that could be quite vulnerable with you actually gets the emotional connection again, because they may be a little bit reluctant, but if you can kind of share a part of yourself and maybe some of the challenges that you've also gone through and overcome, like that will build that emotional connection again rather than just going through a script like you're a robot.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really good point, that. And it's actually a really good segue into our next podcast, which I think is a really important one that probably a lot of people miss, is how to find the real need behind people's words. So not just what they're saying, what's really going on in there. So that'll be
Yeah.
on the next podcast with Jeremy. I'm looking forward to this. This is number 2 of a series of 4. That will be number 3. Looking forward to catching up with that one, Jeremy. Thanks for joining us again, and we'll chat soon.
All right. Thanks, Kingsley. Looking forward to it.